It sounds twisted, but in life, the more you give without limit, the more invisible you become. You open the door for others, but they never open it for you. You go out of your way to be agreeable, to make things easier, for everyone to keep the peace, and yet the very people you help start treating you as if your effort is invisible. It's not just that they forget to say thank you. It's something deeper. A kind of silent disrespect that seeps into the relationship. They interrupt you mid-sentence. They dismiss your needs as unimportant. They assume you'll always be there, the one who adjusts, the one who bends, the one who quietly absorbs the discomfort so that others don't have to. And the more you tolerate it, the worse it seems to get. You find yourself wondering, why do people treat me this way? Why is my kindness rewarded with disregard? Why do the ones who stand firm get respect, while the ones who yield get walked on? Carl Jung would say, this problem has less to do with them and far more to do with you. Not because it's your fault, but because it's your unconscious dynamics that invite this pattern. Jung once wrote, knowing your own darkness is the best method for dealing with the darkness of other people. And in that single line, he reveals why being too nice often backfires. When you repress your assertiveness, when you bury your anger, when you hide away the part of you that can say no with conviction, you don't actually get rid of it. You push it into your shadow. And the shadow doesn't just disappear. It leaks out in the way people perceive you, in the way they test you, in the way they instinctively sense that you're unwilling to fight for yourself. Let's put this into a story. Imagine a man named David. David prides himself on being the nice guy. He's helpful at work. He stays late when no one else wants to. He avoids confrontation because he doesn't want to make anyone uncomfortable. But over the years, something begins to change. His colleagues, who once seemed grateful, start assigning him the tasks nobody else wants. They interrupt him in meetings. They stop asking for his opinion. And when promotions come up, he's overlooked. Not because he's not competent, but because he's invisible. At home, things aren't much different. His partner gets frustrated with him. Not because he's unkind, he's anything but unkind, but because he never expresses what he really wants. Every decision falls on her shoulders. She begins to feel like she's living with a ghost. David is exhausted. He's doing everything right. He's kind. He's agreeable. He avoids conflict. And yet he feels more disrespected than ever. This is the hidden trap of being too nice. It isn't that kindness is wrong. It's that niceness without boundaries becomes a mask. And masks always crack. Jung described the mask as the persona, the face we present to the world, the polite version of ourselves designed to fit in, to be accepted, to be liked. The persona is useful. We all need it. But when the persona becomes the whole of who we are, when we identify with it completely, we lose touch with the deeper, more complex aspects of our psyche. The shadow, the instinctual self, the part of us that can be angry, assertive, dominant, even ruthless if necessary. And when we deny that part, the world senses the imbalance. Think of it like a negotiation. Two people sit at a table. One is willing to walk away. The other is not. Who holds the power? Always the one who is willing to say no. And that is exactly what happens in relationships. The person who suppresses their anger, who avoids conflict at any cost, who believes that constant yielding will win love and respect, that person is unknowingly communicating weakness. Not in words, but in energy. It leaks out in body language, in tone of voice, in subtle hesitations, and people around them, often unconsciously, respond to it. They push harder. They take more. They respect less. Jung argued that what we refuse to integrate within ourselves, we end up projecting onto others. When you deny your own capacity for aggression, for power, for assertion, you don't eliminate it. You see it in others instead. Everyone else becomes too aggressive, too selfish, too controlling. And you tell yourself, I could never be like that. But here's the dark truth. Until you own your own aggression, others will keep playing that role for you. They'll dominate you so that your psyche can maintain the illusion that you're above such behavior. And in the process, you'll resent them while never realizing that they're simply carrying the part of yourself you've refused to claim. This is why Jung warned that integrating the shadow is essential. Because when you bring those hidden qualities into consciousness, when you recognize, yes, I too am capable of anger. Yes, I too can be selfish. Yes, I too have the capacity to dominate. You no longer need others to play those roles for you. You reclaim the energy, and something changes in the way people perceive you. It isn't that you become aggressive, it's that you radiate a different kind of presence, a quiet authority, a groundedness, an energy that says, I am kind, but I am not weak. I am open, but I am not a doormat. I will help you, but I will not be used. This is where suppressed anger comes in. For many nice people, anger feels terrifying. It feels dangerous. Maybe they grew up in households where anger led to violence, or maybe they were punished for showing it. Maybe they were told, good boys don't get angry, or nice girls don't talk back. So they learned to bury it, to smile instead, to keep the peace. But anger doesn't vanish. It simmers. It leaks out in passive aggression, in silent resentment, in exhaustion, in a quiet, gnawing sense of being used. And people can feel it. They sense that something isn't aligned. They may not consciously think this person is suppressing their anger, but they feel the lack of backbone. And they respond accordingly. Here's a painful truth. People respect those who respect themselves. And self-respect is impossible without boundaries. Kindness without strength is not respected. It is pitied. Or worse, exploited. Strength without kindness is feared. But when strength and kindness combine, when you can be compassionate, yet firm, open-hearted, yet unafraid of conflict, that is when respect naturally follows. Jung's psychology shows us that the path to this balance lies in shadow integration. It means facing the part of you that isn't nice, the part that can say, no, I won't do that for you. No, I don't agree. No, that's not acceptable. And it also means embracing the inner warrior who doesn't need approval to exist. When you hide this warrior, the world treats you as invisible. When you reclaim it, the world feels your presence. Not because you dominate, but because you stand rooted. And people can sense it. Think about it. Who do you respect more? The friend who always says yes, who never challenges you, who always agrees even when you know they don't mean it? Or the friend who can look you in the eye and say, I care about you, but I disagree, and I'm not going along with that? Deep down, it's the second one. Because we trust people who are willing to stand in their truth. And we mistrust the ones who are endlessly agreeable. Not because they're bad people, but because we sense they're hiding something. And we're right, they're hiding themselves. So, if you've ever wondered why people overlook you, why your voice gets drowned out, why your kindness isn't reciprocated, the answer may lie in your shadow. It may be that the part of you capable of anger, capable of power, capable of saying no, has been locked away for so long that others don't even sense it's there. And until you reclaim it, the pattern will continue. Because people respond not just to what you say, but to what you embody. And if you embody only the persona, the smiling, agreeable, conflict-avoiding self. They will sense the imbalance, and they will push. Carl Jung believed that the process of individuation, becoming a whole person, requires us to face this shadow. It isn't about becoming less kind. It's about becoming more real, owning both the light and the dark, integrating both the saint and the warrior, allowing yourself to be seen as a full human being, not just the agreeable mask, but the complex soul beneath it. Only then does kindness carry weight. Only then does compassion command respect. And only then does being nice stop backfiring and start becoming what it was always meant to be. A choice, not a compulsion. That's the paradox. People don't truly respect the endlessly nice. They respect the whole. The person who can be kind, but doesn't need to be. The person who chooses compassion, but is capable of strength. The person who has looked into their own darkness and therefore cannot be manipulated by the darkness of others. And this is the journey Jung invites us to take. Not away from kindness, but beyond it. Into the deeper terrain where shadow and light meet, where assertiveness and compassion balance, where respect flows naturally because you have finally learned to respect yourself. So now the question becomes practical. If you recognize yourself in this pattern, the endless giving, the quiet resentment, the subtle disrespect, what do you actually do about it? It's one thing to know that being too nice hides your shadow. It's another thing entirely to change it. Because the truth is, most people don't even realize when they're giving away their power. It happens in small, everyday ways. The colleague who asks, "Can you take care of this for me?" And you say yes, even though you're drowning in your own work. The friend who cancels on you for the third time, and you brush it off, pretending it doesn't bother you. The partner who dismisses your opinion, and instead of speaking up, you go quiet, telling yourself it's not worth the argument. Each of these moments seems small, but together they form a pattern that teaches others how to treat you, a pattern that reinforces the silent message: my needs don't matter. Your comfort is more important than my truth. And once that pattern sets in, breaking it feels terrifying. Because to break it, you must step into the very thing you've avoided all along: conflict. Jung's work on individuation reminds us that growth always requires discomfort. The shadow doesn't integrate itself gently. It demands confrontation. So the first practical step is simply to notice, to observe where in your life you say yes when you mean no, where you smile while quietly seething inside, where you shrink back from your own truth for the sake of keeping peace. This isn't about self-criticism. It's about awareness. Because until you see the pattern, you can't change it. But here's the catch. Once you do see it, once you realize how often you betray yourself in the name of niceness, the temptation is to swing too far the other way. Suddenly, you want to assert yourself in every conversation. You want to say no to everything. You want to prove to the world that you're not weak, and in doing so, you risk becoming just as unbalanced as before, only in the opposite direction. This is one of the common pitfalls. The shadow is powerful, and when you first begin to integrate it, the pendulum often swings too hard. Instead of kindness without strength, you become strength without kindness. Instead of being walked on, you start walking on others. You confuse bluntness with honesty, aggression with assertiveness, domination with self-respect. And while this phase can feel liberating at first, it quickly breeds isolation. People stop trusting you, not because you're weak this time, but because you're unpredictable. So the real task is balance, not repression, not overcompensation, but integration. The ability to carry both energies within you, kindness and firmness, compassion and strength, light and shadow. How do you do this in practice? Here are a few ways. First, the pause. Most people who are too nice have a reflexive yes. They agree before they've even considered their own needs. The pause interrupts that reflex. When someone asks you for something, don't answer immediately. Breathe. Notice your body. Ask yourself, do I want to do this? Do I have the energy for this? Am I saying yes out of fear of disappointing them, or from a genuine willingness? That pause is small, but it's revolutionary, because it gives you the space to choose rather than react. Second, low stakes. No. For many people, saying no feels impossible, so start small. Decline an invitation to an event you don't want to attend. Tell the waiter they got your order wrong. Ask for what you actually want at the coffee shop. These are low-stakes situations, but they build the muscle of assertiveness. And as with any muscle, it strengthens over time. Third, owning anger without exploding. This is one of Jung's most important lessons. Anger is not evil, it is energy, and energy can be transformed. Instead of pretending it isn't there, acknowledge it. Notice where it sits in your body. Name it. I feel angry. And then ask, what is this anger telling me? What boundary is being crossed? What need is going unmet? When you approach anger this way, it becomes a teacher rather than a tyrant. You don't need to lash out. You don't need to suppress it either. You can use it as information, and then express it clearly, without venom. That doesn't work for me. I feel disrespected when this happens. I need something different. Simple, firm, without apology. This is the integration of the shadow, not unleashing chaos, but reclaiming power. Fourth, reframe niceness as choice, not obligation. There is nothing wrong with kindness. The world needs more of it. But kindness that comes from fear is not kindness. It's submission. So the question is, are you being nice because you want to, or because you feel you have to? If it's the latter, it's not kindness. It's avoidance. Real kindness is powerful precisely because it's not required. It comes from choice, from freedom, from a place of strength. When you help someone because you want to, because it aligns with your values, it feels nourishing. But when you help because you're afraid of conflict, it breeds resentment. And people can feel the difference. Now, here's another pitfall: expecting immediate change in how others treat you. When you first start setting boundaries, people will often resist. Not because they're evil, but because they're used to the old pattern. They've benefited from your endless yes. They've come to expect it. So when you begin saying no, they may push back. They may accuse you of being selfish. They may withdraw affection. They may even get angry. And this is where most people collapse. They think, see, I knew this wouldn't work. I knew if I stopped being so nice, everyone would leave me. But this resistance is not a sign you're wrong. It's a sign the pattern is shifting. Because when you change the dance, the other dancer stumbles. And that's okay. In fact, it's necessary. The people who truly value you will adapt. They'll learn to meet you in a healthier place. The ones who only valued your compliance may drift away. And though it hurts, this too is necessary, because respect requires filtering. You cannot be respected by all, only by those willing to meet your wholeness. Let's connect this back to Jung. He believed that individuation, the process of becoming whole, requires tension, a balancing of opposites, a confrontation with discomfort. For the too nice person, that tension is between peace and conflict, between self-sacrifice and self-respect. To individuate, you must hold that tension. You must learn to live in the discomfort of not being liked by everyone. You must tolerate the anxiety of disappointing others. You must withstand the fear of being called selfish. And in that tension, something alchemical happens. You grow. You discover a deeper strength, a more authentic kindness, a presence that others can feel and respect. There's also a deeper philosophical layer here. The ancient Greeks spoke of the golden mean, virtue, as the balance between extremes. Courage is the mean between cowardice and recklessness. Generosity is the mean between stinginess and waste. Likewise, healthy kindness is the mean between cruelty and self-erasure. Too far on one side, you become cold and harsh. Too far on the other, you become invisible and exploited. The middle path is not easy, but it is the path of wholeness. And Jung's psychology gives us the map. Because in shadow work, the goal is never to destroy one pole in favor of the other. It is to unite them, to become both soft and strong, both light and dark, both saint and warrior. That is what makes a human being whole. Let's bring this back down to something you can do today. Ask yourself, where in my life am I pretending to be okay when I'm not? Where do I say yes out of fear? Where am I resentful but silent? Write these moments down. See them clearly. Then pick one small boundary to practice. Just one. It could be as simple as telling a friend, I can't talk right now. I need some space. Or telling a colleague, I'm not able to take that on. Or even telling yourself, I don't have to explain my no. Do it once. Notice how it feels. Yes, it will be uncomfortable. Yes, you'll fear their reaction. But this is the path. The discomfort is the proof that something real is shifting. And here's the final trap to avoid. Believing that reclaiming your shadow will make life easier. It won't. It will make life truer. You will still face conflict. You will still be misunderstood. You will still lose people along the way. But you will gain something far greater. Self-respect. Authenticity. The ability to stand in your own presence without apology. And in that space, you will find that the relationships which remain are deeper, richer, more real, because they are built not on your mask, but on your wholeness. So if you've been too nice for too long, if you've been invisible in your own life, if you've wondered why kindness never seems to bring respect, the invitation is clear. Stop hiding your shadow. Stop fearing your anger. Stop betraying yourself for the sake of peace. Integrate, balance, become whole. And in doing so, you'll discover a paradox far deeper than the one we started with. Not that kindness leads to disrespect, but that true respect only comes when kindness is rooted in strength. By now, you might feel a mixture of relief and unease. Relief, because you see more clearly why your kindness hasn't brought the respect you longed for. Unease, because you realize what it will cost to change it. And this is where most people hesitate. They understand the theory. They nod along when they hear about the shadow. But when it comes to practice, when it comes to actually speaking up, actually saying no, actually showing a side of themselves they've hidden for years, the fear rises. So let's pause here and address the questions you might already be carrying in your mind. What if people leave me when I start asserting myself? They might. This is the blunt answer. Some people are in your life precisely because you have no boundaries, because you make it easy for them, because you absorb the discomfort so they don't have to. When you stop doing that, when you reclaim your power, some of them will drift away, and that is painful. But here's the deeper truth. If the price of connection is self-betrayal, it's not connection. It's dependency. Respectful relationships survive boundaries. Exploitative ones do not. So when people leave, don't see it as a failure. See it as the clearing of space for relationships that can honor your wholeness. But isn't it selfish to think about myself first? This is a common fear. Many of us were taught that self-sacrifice is virtue, that putting others first is noble, that to consider our own needs is somehow selfish. But here's the paradox. When you chronically ignore yourself, you don't actually serve others. You serve resentment. Your yes loses meaning because it's no longer free. It's forced. True generosity comes only when the self is respected. When you know your limits, when you protect your energy, when you choose your yes rather than give it automatically, that's when kindness becomes authentic. So no, asserting yourself is not selfish. It's the foundation of real giving. What if I get angry and lose control? This fear runs deep. For many, anger is associated with chaos, violence, or rejection. So they bury it. But anger is not the problem. Unconscious anger is. Suppressed anger leaks out sideways through sarcasm, withdrawal, passive aggression. Or it explodes after months of silence. Neither brings respect. But conscious anger, acknowledged, felt, expressed clearly and calmly, is one of the most powerful tools you have. It says, I matter. My boundaries matter. I will not allow this to continue. And here's the irony. People often feel safer around those who can own their anger because they know where they stand. There is no hidden resentment simmering under the surface, just clarity. So don't fear anger. Learn to hold it, name it, channel it. That's what Jung meant by integrating the shadow. Not unleashing chaos, but turning raw energy into grounded power. Can't I just stay kind and hope people notice? You can, but you already know the answer. People don't notice. Not in the way you hope. Yes, they may appreciate your kindness in passing, but they don't build respect on it. Because respect isn't given to those who avoid their own truth. Respect is given to those who embody it. Waiting for others to notice your sacrifices is a trap. It keeps you invisible. It keeps you quietly suffering while life passes you by. At some point, you must decide, is it better to be unnoticed for being endlessly agreeable or respected for being real? Now let's turn the lens inward again. Because beneath all these questions, there's a deeper one. Who am I if I am not the nice one? For many, niceness is not just a habit. It's an identity. It's how they've survived. It's how they've earned love. It's how they've defined themselves. So when you begin to loosen that identity, it can feel like death. Like the ground beneath you is crumbling. And in a sense, it is. Jung would say, this is the death of the old persona. The mask you've worn for so long that you've mistaken it for your face. But only when the mask cracks can the deeper self emerge. And though it feels terrifying at first, it is the beginning of true freedom. Let me offer you a metaphor. Imagine you are a tree. For years, you've trimmed your own branches, kept yourself small, so you wouldn't cast shade on others. You thought this would make you loved, but instead, it made you invisible. Now the work is to let yourself grow, to spread your branches fully, to take up the space you were always meant to. Yes, some may complain about the shade. Yes, some may no longer fit in the garden you create. But the tree does not apologize for growing, and neither should you. So where does this journey end? It ends in integration, not in becoming less kind, but in becoming more whole. Wholeness is what commands respect. Because wholeness is rare. Most people are fragments, masks, half-truths. But when you embrace both your light and your darkness, your compassion and your power, your softness and your fire, you become something others can't ignore. They may not always like you, but they will feel you. They will respect you, because you respect yourself. Carl Jung's words echo here. Knowing your own darkness is the best method for dealing with the darkness of other people. If you know your anger, others cannot use it against you. If you know your selfishness, others cannot manipulate you with guilt. If you know your own capacity for dominance, others cannot dominate you by surprise. This is the quiet power of shadow work. It disarms the world because you are no longer hiding from yourself. So as we close this reflection, I want to leave you with a challenge. For the next week, choose one moment each day to honor yourself. It could be a no you've been avoiding. It could be expressing an opinion you usually hide. It could be letting someone else feel uncomfortable instead of cushioning them. Just one moment each day, and watch what happens. Yes, there may be pushback. Yes, you may feel fear, but you will also feel something else. A quiet shift inside, a strength you didn't know was there, a spark of respect for yourself. And once you feel that, you'll realize this is what you were missing all along. Not endless approval, not constant harmony, but the dignity of standing in your own truth. So let me end with this. Being nice is easy. Being whole is hard. But only wholeness commands respect. And only wholeness can love and be loved without disguise. So stop asking, why don't people respect my kindness? And start asking, am I respecting myself? Because the moment you do, the world changes.